Raising Vibrations community, and welcome to my Taurus friends. And today we're going to be looking at your astrological forecast for the month of December, and just giving a heads up on current energy patterns that are taking place and how to really understand what is evolving your constellation at this point in time, or at least your own energy patterns. Now, the first thing that I do want to say is that, to me, I think that December is going to be a really weird month. I feel that there's going to be some really strong up and downs. I also feel that because of the nature of the angles and aspects that are being made, 2016 from January to November was pretty bizarre. But from December's point of view, I feel that it's going to be a culmination of that whole entire cycle. So it's going to be interesting to watch how we transit through December, not creating too much hype, but being aware of the kind of bizarreness that's going to take place and the changes that are also going to manifest. And how do you as a Taurus sun sign integrate yourself into this experience? Now, if we go ahead and look at your astrology chart, right, for the month of December, and kind of just looking at the symbols and how they are at this stage, a lot of your symbols are placed in the transit between I'm just finishing up, how do I understand myself in relationship to others, to how do I begin to now integrate what I understand about myself into the world, okay? Right, so what I mean by that is, if you have a look, a large majority of your symbols are in your 11th house of your astrological chart, so there's a lot about group dynamics. Mars has been transiting through your 10th. Venus will be transiting through your 10th. Pluto has been working a lot in the kind of core philosophy of Taurus in itself. And although Saturn is still in your 8th house, playing a lot of the dynamics of sharing and how do I find myself in intimate relationships and what does intimacy mean for me and where are my boundaries, etc., it's predominantly still reflecting to you this transition out of who am I in the greater context, sorry, not greater context, but who am I to who am I in the greater context of societal structures, right? So again, you go and study, you develop a good relationship with people teach you about society's rules and regulations in their way, and then you go out into the world and you kind of manifest that life direction. So for Taurus, a lot about life direction, okay? So if I look at the more outer planets, firstly, we've got Uranus situated in your 12th house. He's been there since 2012. So a lot of the kind of experiences that you've been having with Uranus in the 12th has been very shocking, okay? But shocking in a way that's brought you closer to a more divine part of your relationship to life. Like there's been more mystical experiences happen to you that has allowed you to transcend a lot of your perception of source, of God, of higher spiritual awareness, okay? And these might not necessarily have come through experiences that have been positive or welcomed, but needless to say, a lot of your experiences with Uranus and how it's been creating unconscious awakenings for you has been through mystical experiences out of the blue that's kind of questioned your faith in things, as it were. Okay. And of course, Uranus has been making a square to Pluto, and Pluto has been in your 9th house of your astrological chart. So again, as I've said before in previous conversations, the 9th house symbolizes the core cosmology, okay? The inherent, what is your belief system, and how does that belief system validate the life that you live, okay? So as an example, you are somebody that believes the world is flat. Somebody comes along to you, then begins to ask you questions around the possibility of a different way of looking at it, but because the cosmology doesn't integrate those kind of ideas or perspectives, then it's outside the framework of what makes you feel secure. And so that immediately creates the relationship of, do I try to convince and convert somebody, or do I just allow that person to have their own core philosophy and belief system as it's their own universe, and we don't really need to debate about it in terms of convincing, just curiosity, probably the best out of it, to be honest. Does everybody understand what I mean by that? So for you, this Pluto transit ninth house experience since 2008 has really been uprooting, as I said, the faith, like your faith in things. And with Uranus transiting your 12th house, of course, those mystical experiences would have opened your eyes up to experiences that would have given you a deeper awareness around this faith idea. Now, you've got Jupiter in your 6th house of your astrological chart in Libra. So you're definitely expanding your sense of core philosophy and growing a lot around your knowledge or truth for this year, like from September up until next year, September, in your work environment, okay? So this has got a lot to do with like self-improvement. So you would have definitely felt this desire to want to improve yourself, to want to look at what is the fundamental competence level that you have as a person, and then just trying to give yourself an opportunity to maybe go back to school or feel a sense of growth. And I think that for this year and next up until 2017, there's going to be a lot of growth take place for you. Okay, so that's a great thing with Jupiter in your 6th house. Just be careful to not feel inadequate. That's the thing. But when I say just be careful to don't, you're going to feel that anyway. It's just about not actually identifying yourself as inadequate, just recognizing that this is a transit of growth. Okay. So then we've got things like Saturn transiting your 8th house, of course, and again, Neptune in your 11th house. Now, Saturn and Neptune have been making connections with each other for quite some time. And we're looking at what does mystical experiences look like? How do we develop our relationship to a higher experience? Most of the time, it comes through experiences of loss, experiences of abandonment, experiences of betrayal. And that's just because when we are comfortable in our lives, we don't tend to pay attention a lot to the meaning of it because it's, just pretty much going with the flow. And that's great. But along the roads, things get bumpy, generally speaking, 8th house and 11th house stuff. And we kind of find ourselves in this place of loss, abandonment. And then what is my emotional feelings towards it? Like, why did I lose that dog? Why did I lose that parent? Why does that person have to, why did I lose my business, as it were? It's kind of those things that really create this deeper exploration. And so with Saturn, there's a very deep need for exploration around your desires, okay? And in particular, the desires that you have within your core philosophy. So that's what's transferring for you right now. And of course, with the Neptune thing is, how do I find support in a group that reflects these desires? So which tribe do I belong to that helps me find aspiration and a sense of support? That's it, like group support. What do my friends think? Am I with the right types of friends? And so on. Okay, so this is a big month for you in terms of looking at what are those core fundamental truths that you have, and how does the group reflect that? And then how does that group and core fundamental truth reflect alignment with a path of new direction, a path of what am I going to believe in life? What is the core philosophy that I hold true in myself? Like, those are your questions, okay? Now, Mars transiting your 10th house of your astrological charts in Aquarius. Mars transiting 10th house is always going to create a deep sense of frustration. So I wouldn't be surprised if you've been feeling frustrated a little bit as Mars has been moving through the sign. It's literally just creating a slowing down process and just kind of keeping you in a space of when the time is right, that's when to act. But you would have also found yourself in opportunities come your way around new career moves or feelings of what is my life purpose or direction. So those again would have been your questions that would have come up. Now, when we look at the symbols over here for the month of December, Chiron goes direct. So I'm going to be doing a live stream, which you can check out on my Facebook page and also my YouTube very, very shortly. I'll be doing that live stream to talk a lot about what Chiron direct means. On the 2nd of December, which we've already passed, Mercury enters Capricorn. So again, that Mercury is going to be retrograding as well, which I'll talk about. The 7th, Venus enters Aquarius. There's Venus now currently in Capricorn. It will transit through your 10th house again. So a lot of what Mars has been doing in the 10th house for the last month or so is going to become more crystallized in your sense of values. So there's going to be new relationship patterns come out for you for the month of December, and probably just the beginning of January as well, with Venus moving through your 10th house. So again, a stop-start opportunity, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back experience. The purpose with Venus is to just trust the self, okay? Trust yourself, just keep going, even if it feels scary. So on the 13th of December, we've got a full moon that's happening in Gemini, and that's going to be landing in your 2nd house of your astrological chart. So this new moon, full moon experience has been landing in your 8th, 2nd house axis, okay? The 8th and 2nd house always reflects inner self-empowerment. How do I empower myself through becoming self-sustainable? So a lot of this new moon, this full moon experience is going to be, how do I become self-sustainable? How do I empower myself from the inside out? Okay. And then on the 19th of December, we've got Mars entering Pisces, which is there, and we've got Mercury beginning its retrograde function. So Mercury retrograde is always going to bring us a lot of the stuff that we haven't paid attention to, or haven't been able to pay attention to, should I say. And all I would say with Mercury retrograde, as it's in your 9th and 8th house, is you're still trying to work through the kinks around what belief system you wish to be empowered through. Okay, that's the key there with Mercury retrograde. And of course, Mars entering Pisces will create for the whole collective a sort of activation, okay, around the symbolism that's taking place for us. And this symbolism is very, very deep, but on a very sort of simple level. Neptune South Node connection relates to the whole entire globe going through an ego structure shift. So the way that we relate to ourselves emotionally is being completely washed away, and we're becoming more and more and more and more and more open to our separation, but also aware of where we need to create holistic bonds with people. Okay. So just 2 days after that, December the 21st, Sun enters Capricorn, which is great for you because, again, this will then bring a lot of the stuff into your 9th house. And this will correlate with Venus moving into your 10th, Mars into the 12th, Sun into the 9th house. So again, the transition from who do I see myself in the world? So how do I relate to people and social understandings, to how do I now integrate those into the world? And this is the current transition that will take place for you. So a lot of top heavy stuff happening for you, right? Being pulled out of your home, being pulled out of yourself into the world. Okay. All right. So on the 24th, Sun trines Uranus. That will be an exact trine. The thing is, though, this trine has been taking place for quite some time for you. And of course, this is really just this mystical experience happening. They're outer planets, so it's very much just a generational thing as well. On the 26th, Jupiter is going to oppose Uranus and it's going to square Pluto. So I would expect during this period of time to be very frustrated, probably very limiting in your space. You might find yourself being hypersensitive to judgments and projections and expectations and stuff. My advice to anybody during this period of time is just to pay attention to these things and not to take anything personal. And then, of course, on the 28th of December, we've got Sun square Chiron. And that, again, is just another sort of need for us as a collective, and for you in this particular instance, to recognize that we as a collective are healing our separative wounds and our traumas. And for you, that will be around, how do I validate, or how do I find empowerment in my core philosophy? All right. All right, Taurus, thanks very much for listening. You can always support the work that I have by going over to my website, choosing a reading if you want to connect with me, supporting some of the schools, just sending me an email, just to say thanks very much. It's always appreciative. And my website is in the description below. Other than that, have a fantastic month.